whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're gonna hurt some people. Which car are we gonna take?
Happy Friday, and thank you for joining us on the Nikki Medoro Show. I was telling Kim, and happy Friday, Kim, before the show that I'm exhausted, so you guys are going to have to bear with me. My husband was extremely excited about a possum on our power lines that he dragged me out of bed to look at it through the window last night. So if your spouse has ever dragged you out of bed for some nonsense when you just want to go to bed, you feel me.
Did you tell him I've seen a possum before? Did you tell him it's
probably way harsher terms than that? Like, I don't give a bleep about a possum.
Next time it has to be a bear. If there's a bear in the backyard, then wake me up. Maybe a coyote.
Or a burglar or something like. I swear, Kim.
A mountain lion? Yes.
Hurt him. Nikki, as if it's something I've never seen before. And I'm like, there's possums at night. Like, go to bed, man. Go to bed.
Well, over the weekend, there's supposed to be the peak of a meteor shower, right? So if he was standing out there and there were beautiful stars falling in the sky and it was a romantic moment he wanted to share with you, maybe yes. But even a possum on a power line? I don't think so.
Let me be honest with you. I know the romance. I know that, but if I am in bed, I'm in bed. Eye mask is on. I am snuggled and, warm. PG&E's raising our rates. The heat is not on. He made me get out of bed. No, not a possum, not a meteor shower. Once the eye mask is on, you know how it is. If the bra is off and the eye mask is on, I am in bed. Do not bother me unless it is an emergency.
What would rise to the level of getting you out of bed?
Something with the children. Even like, unless a medical emergency with my husband. If something breaks and he can handle it, do not get me out of bed, my friend. Do not. It's bedtime.
Otherwise, take a picture. We'll see it tomorrow.
I sent him a picture this morning. I sent him a picture of just a generic possum on a power line. I'm like, you were killing me last night. And he's like, I wanted Nugget, our dog, and the possum to become friends. I was like, I don't think Nugget wanted to do anything but kill that possum. But yeah. So that was my night. And again, thank you all for being here. We have John Rothmann waiting in the wings. On Fridays now, we're going to do a kind of a political roundup because politics moves at the speed of light. Of course, John also has his own podcast, which he'll be talking about as well, which we love the fact that John Rothmann is doing that. It is Friday, so Tim Sika will be joining us towards the end of the show. He did not review Trolls, Kim. It is not on the list. But he did review the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I know the name.
The Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Songbirds and Snakes. Yeah. So we'll see what he says. I'm really interested in that. My daughter made me watch the original Trolls movie last night because she's extremely excited about that. So we shall see. And I'll give my own review if we do end up watching it this weekend. Friday food. I don't have anything made. I apologize. I have a plan though, Kim. This is my plan. I have kind of a New Year's resolution with this segment. That I have to work out the kinks. So if you guys have any recommendations, but I think I'm going to find a cookbook. Okay. And I'm going to work my way through the cookbook for the show. Doesn't that sound like a good idea? You know what I mean? Like, remember that movie Julia and Julia where she went through Julia? I'm not doing that. I'm not Julia Childs.
Bouffe bourguignon.
Which is really good, but I'm not making that. But I'm going to find some sort of cookbook that I can realistically think I'll make a recipe once a week through it. Yeah. Art of French cooking? No, Esther Lula. I am not going to do that. But I want to do something like that. I think that'd be a really fun segment because I have a hard time with the new hours of this show finding something I want to make. And I want it to be fresh and I don't always buy DoorDash or something and things like that. So we'll figure it out for the new year and I'll brainstorm and I'll research some cookbooks to do all of that. Okay. We're going to get to John in just a moment. But before we get to John Rothmann, click that thumbs up button to show your support of the show. It helps us out. It expands our reach on YouTube. The super chat is also live. You guys have been so generous, and we really, really appreciate it. So look for the $ under the chat box. And you can do a super chat, comment, thanks, sticker. I think I make up some of these supers. I don't know. You can decide what you want to do the super fill in the blank for and throw us some dollars during the show or even during the replay. And then please sign up to be an official Medorable. And you're in the cool club by becoming a monthly Patreon subscriber. It's very simple. Just go to the NikkiMedoroShow.com and the Patreon link is there. You can decide. I have not set up any tiers. So you can do it for $5. You can do it for $25. Some of you do it for $50. That's amazing. Whatever you can afford. And then if you already are a Medorable and you realize, hey, I can throw them a couple more dollars a month, we appreciate that as well. Our PayPal is up. Just go to paypal.com and put in the email, the Nikki Medoro Show @gmail.com. You'll see the logo. It'll confirm that it is the right PayPal account. And we take money that way as well. The merch shop is up. You see some of the merch back there. I'm adding new things. I also have in the show notes, I've started a list of my favorite things.
I was looking at it last night. I saw it on Facebook and I was like, that looks interesting. I think that the game that's your favorite, I'm going to buy that and give it for Christmas gifts.
It's so much fun. It's called O-Trio. If anyone has played O-Trio, my best friend April, shout out to April, turned me onto it when we went camping a couple of years ago. It's like an advanced form of tic-tac-toe. If you think that's boring, it's not. Like, you have to pay attention. It really works your brain. Adults, kids, everyone can play it together. I would say the youngest I'd go, which is still pretty young, 7 or 8, I think.
Okay.
I think 8, maybe the age. It is so much fun. So yeah, check it out. I'm going to continue to add new things. It's the holiday season. And so I have that up there as well. Look for the show notes. It's a Linktree link. And you could check out Nikki's favorite things. And of course, my famous eye mask is, of course, on there because that is hands down my most favorite thing. Okay, so let's get into politics and welcome our friend, the famous in of his own right, John Rothmann. Hello, my friend.
May I say I am so thrilled, so delighted. And if everybody could have heard the banter before the show began, they would know about the possum on the power line.
Yes.
And immediately I thought to myself, how electrifying.
Ah, but I'm bummed.
But also,
I miss
Nikki,
your puns, John.
I have a great idea for you in terms of food.
Oh, yes.
Post your favorite family recipes.
Ooh.
I think people would love to know what it is that your parents, your family really enjoy. And it really kicks things off, you know?
Oh, yeah. There's definitely, and people that have become an official Medorable last year know I had put my mom's famous money goat recipe up there. It's still up there for Patreon subscribers. So I'll do that again this year. We're doing most of the cooking this year. And so it could be.
Now you're cooking.
It could be bad. It could be good, but I think it'll be pretty good. So, John, just to let everybody know, this is going to be a regular segment on Fridays. So we're going to do kind of a look back at the week of what's been happening in politics around the country and obviously around the world. I guess first off, today's the last official day, I think, of APEC. I don't think there's any events tomorrow. APEC has been marred by protests. I don't want to say marred. It's expected that protests will happen. Everything from obviously the conflict between Israel and Hamas, climate change, China. Your thoughts on the conference in general and the message being sent, not just to President Biden, but to other leaders?
The most encouraging thing was John Kerry's agreement on global warming issues with China. There's no question that was the most significant aspect. I think the second key takeaway is that Joe Biden was elected in large measure because he has foreign policy experience. The fact that he is able to sit down with the Chinese president and have constructive interaction is, to me, very important. It does not ameliorate the various issues we have with China, but it is a beginning. And that, frankly, is one of the reasons why Joe Biden, despite all of the criticism from the right, remains an effective president. And so one has to consider in the presidential election what the alternative would be if someone else were running foreign policy.
Exactly.
So I was relatively pleased. I want to also say a word about San Francisco. The city opened its heart, opened its streets and
Cleaned its
restricted
streets.
traffic. It's amazing. And the mayor is now on the spot because somebody asked her, well, are you going to be able to do this regularly? And she really couldn't answer the question. But the point is, San Francisco can be cleaned up. San Francisco can perform. One of the most interesting things for me is on California Street, because they were all going out to the Legion of Honor last night, everything that you couldn't park anywhere on California Street, nowhere.
Right.
And the number of tickets that were issued from people who didn't pay attention to the signs should be a great revenue booster for San Francisco.
No. I mean, I'm assuming there were signs everywhere. Why would people think that they could park there? But you live in San Francisco. I mean, I was hearing a lot of people actually being upset that looking at the clean streets and being like, it can happen. It wasn't costing any more money. They were taking it from their current pot of money and funds. So if it goes back, because John, it's just like keeping your room clean. If you don't maintain it, it's going to get dirty really, really quickly.
Have you explained that to your children?
Oh, every single time they clean their room, which is like every day, because it just goes all the way back. How confident are you that San Francisco is going to be able to maintain it?
Not at all confident.
Neither.
And so I'm being very blunt. We have a dysfunctional political process in San Francisco. Whether or not the mayor can get a real handle on it, the one thing that I think is clear is that as she runs for re-election, and she is the clear favorite in a campaign for re-election, that will be the question. If you could do it then, why can't you do it now?
Right.
And that will be the real question. But on balance for San Francisco, this was great exposure, and hopefully the city benefits from it.
What do you think of the Bay Bridge protest? I was hearing a lot of people upset that they were stuck in traffic, at least early on in the protest. I think as we learned about, apparently there were some organ transplants that were hemmed up in the traffic.
Exactly.
And things like that. Do you think that protests, no matter the cause, because some people are like, well, I have different feelings about the cause. Do you think these things really make any sort of difference? I understand protests are supposed to be disruptive, but what did you think?
No, they don't have to be. There was a protest in Washington, D.C. this week by pro-Israel people. They assembled a little over 300,000 people. There were no arrests, no disorder, no problems. It was a demonstration. Their voices were heard. They got tremendous national coverage, and yet there was no violence, no disruption. Frankly, I was very upset by what happened because, as you pointed out, and I pointed out this morning in my podcast, there were organ transplants going both ways on the bridge. You can have constructive protests without tying up the city. And I think that's what's critical. At one point, several weeks ago, there was a pro-Palestinian protest. They had about 15,000 people on Market Street, and there was very little disruption and no violence. I think the extremes that we are encountering now are really sad. And I commented this morning in my own podcast about contempt, whether it's Donald Trump's contempt for courts or Congressman Santos's contempt for Congress or demonstrators who have contempt for the societies in which they live. You can make your point and do it constructively. And by the way, if you want to be arrested, because we used that tactic, particularly during the civil rights movement, that's great. But the idea of disrupting an entire community with a hateful language that was used, that's what's so incredible to me. The so-called Palestinian cause, and I say so-called because were they demonstrating for Hamas or were they demonstrating for the Palestinian people? I draw a distinct difference. That's a real issue. But let me also just add on this. There is a contempt, it seems to me, whether it's by former President Trump or by Congressman Santos or by some demonstrators, a contempt for living in a civil society. And I think that is something we need to take into account while making sure that if you want to be arrested on principle, as Martin Luther King Jr. was, as I have been in the past, that's legitimate, but not at the expense of an entire community.
Yeah. And I just really want to, before we move on to the GOP, the continuing resolution, I do want to get your perspective on calls for a ceasefire. Do you think calls for a ceasefire are universal?
No, and I have to explain to you, I would be in favor of a ceasefire if Hamas would release all the hostages. I mean, that's the problem right now. The fact that they murdered 1,400 people. with gross atrocities. But this problem of the ceasefire and even Gaza could have been resolved if they had released the hostages. And look what we're doing now. We found 2 more hostages yesterday who were dead. This is the fault of Hamas. You cannot expect people to be under attack, and the brutality that was demonstrated by Hamas and have silence. May I say one of the things that I'm just horribly upset about? The United Nations could not pass a resolution, either in the General Assembly or in the Security Council, condemning Hamas for its atrocities. All they could do was pass a resolution condemning Israel. It is a hypocrisy and a contempt for civil society.
Yeah, it's such a tragedy that's unfolding every day. Every time I open up my phone or watch the news, it's very overwhelming. How we do have a good question though, and as somebody that's watching this unfold in the United States, you're obviously not in the Middle East, but I would assume, John, that you have family, friends over there that are being more directly impacted by this. How do we know where to get the correct number of hostages, those being impacted? For people that just want to know, where do I get the right information? Where do you go?
Let me tell you, first of all, I trust the Israelis. They've given us very accurate information. And indeed, the White House backed up the Israeli claim that Hamas was using tunnels under the hospital.
Yeah.
And of course, that is rejected by Hamas. I would not go to Hamas for accurate information, to be very honest with you. You asked me what news I listen to. I'm happy to tell you. I listen to the CBS hourly news on, may I say it, KCBS.
Yeah. I'm not working there part-time, John, so it's absolutely okay for you to do that.
That's all right. I love it when you're on the air, by the way. But I felt the same way when I was at KGO and people asked me, what did I listen to? Frankly, the KGO or the ABC National News was not as good as CBS National News, which doesn't offer opinion. It offers fact. And I think that, who, what, when, where, why, how. Right. And so that to me is what I turn to. Do I read the media? You bet. I read right-wing media, left-wing media. I listen to all the talk shows that I can, including those that, I suffer from low blood pressure. So some that I listen to raise my blood pressure considerably. But the only way to know is to watch and listen.
But I guess the question I have, John, is you're saying the only way that you would support a ceasefire is if all the hostages were released. Well, how do we know the number of hostages? How do we know when that point comes, and who is supposed to tell us when that number has been reached?
The Israelis have estimated the number of hostages at about 300 or 350, whatever the number is at this moment. And I have to trust them because you can make the argument, Nikki, that you can't do anything until you have the facts, but we have enough facts. We know the atrocities that were committed. Oh, by the way, let me correct myself. It's about 240. I just checked. 240 hostages. We know because we know their names. We know where they lived. We know who they are. We know their ages. We know a lot about them. And that's how you do it. I'm a relatively trusting person, but only when I know the source is relatively accurate. And the Israelis and American intelligence have been collaborating on what is accurate information. And we've gotten pretty much a clear picture. By the way, CNN's coverage of the disaster of the 7th of October, the pictures, the images, which most people have not seen. I've seen some of the more confidential images, but CNN has done a superb job, and they try to balance it. They're not covering up the tragedy of Gaza, but this is not a war against the Palestinian people. It is a war against Hamas, and it is the kind of war which needs to be waged. I regret to say, because I'm basically someone who doesn't like to see anybody hurt, because Hamas is a threat to everybody. And I think that is why Middle Eastern leaders, even those who are upset with Israel, are basically saying, go ahead and finish the job. Let me point out, and I say it again, the United Nations has yet to condemn Hamas for what it did. And that to me is astounding as well.
Let's move on to the continuing resolution that the House passed under newly appointed House Speaker Mike Johnson. First off, Mike Johnson, any difference in what he was able to get the House to agree to than what Kevin McCarthy did?
No, the difference is that Kevin McCarthy was really disliked
Yes,
by the
that's what
right
I was
wing of the
saying.
Republican
Nobody
Party.
liked him. Okay.
And that was his downfall. What Johnson did with the cooperation of the Democrats and most Republicans is to say we can't afford to have the country in that position. And so the right decision was made. We have a more serious problem, which we will have to deal with, and most certainly our children are going to have to deal with, and that is our spending. And the question is, what do you cut? And how do you do it? Or do you increase taxes? Or something I've advocated for years, which is a conservative approach, that is to say the right wing, a penny tax on every dollar you spend. Take a penny and put that into paying off the national debt. I have no problem with that. We have a serious problem when our interest payments are higher than we can afford. Then it's a serious issue. But I am not in favor, and I want to be very clear, of hurting anybody on Social Security under any circumstances. You know, as a talk show host, in the middle of the night, sometimes the phones would die, and I would ask two questions. One, do you live on your Social Security? And the other is, how do you feel about abortion? Well, let me tell you, the board would light up inevitably.
Oh,
But
yeah, exactly.
On the question of Social Security, let's be crystal clear. There are people who live on their Social Security. And as for Medicare, it is an absolutely essential element. Somebody said to me, but that's socialism. Well, that was something I debated back in 1964 in debate class at Washington High School. Was it socialism? To a degree, but it's a good thing because we need to have a health care system that works and that people don't fall through the cracks on.
And exactly.
So,
and when you're of a certain age and you're no longer in the workforce, and by the way, you've been paying into the darn system for how long? And then they try to pull that money away. But what about the fact that the conservatives, the Republicans, want to take away a source of getting more money to the government, which is ramping up the IRS? Why, John? Why would conservatives be so against having more IRS agents going after tax cheats?
what they would call government intrusion. If you listen, Nikki,
that's the IRS, John. That is the IRS. They are intrusions.
If you listen to right-wing radio, what you really understand is that the Justice Department and the IRS are being politicized by the Biden administration in order to strangle the American people. By the way, there's only one person in politics that I know who actually advocates weaponizing the Justice Department.
And who could that be, John?
I don't know, but I'll tell you, I could trump you on the answer. So this is something that everybody really needs to think about. I understand there's waste in government. I understand that. I've been in government on and off over many years. But I also understand that the purpose of government is to do the best it can for people. And the people who need help are the people who are most in need. And that is what Social Security was established for. If I had time, and if we had the vehicle to do it, I would have played you Franklin Roosevelt's message to the nation in 1935 when the Social Security bill was passed. He said, the goal here is to provide a safety net for people. And that is what Social Security is. And if everyone listening to the sound of our voices who gets Social Security can imagine all of a sudden not receiving it, and what's the most valuable thing that most people have in their wallet? A Social Security card, may I point out. A Medicare card, rather, a Medicare card. When my wife turned 65, I don't think she'll mind my telling you that's how old she is. I rolled over and I said to her, honey, I have extra special news. She said, what? I said, I'm sleeping with a senior citizen.
Oh, I'm sure she loved that, John.
Oh,
I'm
she
sure
did.
She loved
did.
that. Yeah.
So I'm pointing this out. By the way, nobody can tell the fact that I've just revealed my wife's age. Please. Otherwise, I'll be sleeping on Nikki's couch. And I know once she puts on the mask, I'm not allowed to wake her up.
No.
So this is something that people have to understand. America is changing. But what the Republicans are suggesting is a rollback to days which we never want to see. That includes food stamps, by the way. They still talk about food stamps. Many people that I know survive on food stamps. Anybody in Section 4 housing? People rely on Section 4 housing. I know that it's not the free enterprise capitalist system where you sink or swim by your own efforts, but it is necessary to understand that the first obligation of government is to protect its citizens.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. We have time for one more. And it came out yesterday. And you were mentioning former President Trump, who for some godforsaken reason, John, continues to be the front runner to be the next president, even though I believe he has disqualified himself to ever hold office again. But there's this investigation over the classified documents, but not for Trump, but for Biden. And apparently he's not expected to be charged in a special counsel investigation. And people are saying, look, this is another example of two different sets of rules. How do you see a difference in the classified documents case?
I
with
do.
Trump
And
Biden?
I would look to Mike Pence. Mike Pence made the same error that Joe Biden made, and there was no decision to charge him. Donald Trump is a completely different animal. This man is in contempt of everything. By the way, he was contacted. He was asked to return the documents.
Exactly.
He obfuscated. I can.
And Biden returned them when they discovered it, right, John? When Biden discovered, he's like, "Oh my goodness, here you go, National Archives people. Here."
He wasn't even asked. He just did it,
which is what you're supposed to do.
I know. So if you ask me the difference, but there is unfortunately a cult which exists in this country. It is the cult of Donald Trump. Whatever Donald Trump says is accepted by some as fact. You know, today marks the 50th anniversary of Richard Nixon saying, "I am not a crook."
Oh, really? Oh, geez.
50 years ago today.
Wow.
It is very important for people to understand that presidents have to be held to the same standard. No one is above the law.
Right.
Richard Nixon was brought down by his own hubris. When David Frost interviewed him, he was very honest. He said, "I impeached myself. I gave them the sword. They thrust it into me." Donald Trump is incapable of accepting the fact that he did something wrong. My podcast this morning is entitled Contempt. By the way, I don't do more than 10 minutes. Maybe it's 11. Maybe I exaggerate slightly. But it's 10 to 11 minutes every day. I get up in the morning, I look at what's going on in the news, and I talk for 10 minutes. By the way,
and
we
it's
now
called
have
Around the Political World with John Rothmann. Around the Political World with John Rothmann.
Thank you. We have about 30,000 people listening now.
Yeah,
and all I can tell you is the feedback I get is entirely positive. There's no cost for this podcast.
Nope.
Unlike Nikki Medoro, who deserves all the support that we can give her.
Yes.
Whether it's and Kim McAllister. Kim, I'm talking about you too. And Mark Thompson. When KGO was eliminated just a year and a month ago, San Francisco lost something that was so important, and that is a place where people can go to talk, to communicate. Yep. I wish that existed today, and I commend you and Kim and Mark, and I'll even say a nice word about myself, pat myself on the back, for the fact that we are doing something to try to generate that kind of communication. And so what you're doing, and why I'm happy to participate every Friday, and you're going to remember, as Kim will tell you, you have to send me the link each week, because I erase it from my memory.
It changes every week. It's okay that every single show is a totally different link.
And you'll just send me the link.
We will send you
right? That's what I ask for each week from Mark.
You don't have to ask for it though, because
email you.
It automatically will automatically send it to you. So you don't have to ask for it.
Let me appeal to the listeners. We try, all of us try, to give you intelligent conversation. It is important for you as listeners to support what we are trying to do. And in the case of Mark and Kim and Nikki, do subscribe, do support, do make that effort. So far, I haven't asked, and I hope that I'm able to maintain what I'm doing without asking. But then again, I don't wear a mask when I go to sleep either. So
it's an eye mask. It's not a face. It's not a face mask. It's an eye mask.
Okay. So let me just say again, it's Around the Political World with John Rothmann.
Yes.
You can find it on Spotify, on Amazon. You can just Google it. It comes up. And I'm delighted to have people join all of us. And I think it's very important that we are doing all of this together, that we support each other and promote each other, because until there is an opportunity for talk radio really to thrive again, this is the forum we have to use. And may I say, thank you, Nikki, for including me.
Oh, I love having you. I'm so happy that we're going to make this a regular segment. Now, next Friday, the show is not live, but we will have you back. So in 2 weeks, we will have you back on the show. And this will be a regular Friday thing where we will talk all things politics with the one and only John
And
Rothmann.
thank you for letting me know about next week. It'll be the day after Thanksgiving, and I may have to recover. Although I have to tell you, I'm alone. My wife and my children are in South Africa.
Oh, no.
They are going on safari
My
tomorrow.
parents are doing that in a few months. How exciting. Why didn't you go with them, John?
Well, I told them I don't have to go on safari. All I have to do is go to the San Francisco Zoo.
Not the same.
Not
the same.
But they're having a wonderful time, and may I say, being with you also provides me with a wonderful time as well.
Well, thank you so much, John. We appreciate you coming on. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Again, everybody go to wherever you get your podcasts and just look up Around the Political World with John Rothmann, and make sure you have subscribed to his podcast. So you don't miss it.
Let's keep talking turkey. It's the only way we can keep abreast of everything. And of course, it gives us a leg up on the news.
Oh, there we go.
A real five-shafter, huh?
The one and only John Rothmann. Thank you, John. We'll talk in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
That's funny. If you ever have worked with John Rothmann, you know the puns. They are hands down John Rothmann.
Yeah.
Through and through. Okay, that's awesome. And so, yeah, again, every 2 weeks, in 2 weeks, and then every Friday, we will have John Rothmann on for a look back at politics, which is just always, it's always going to be a good conversation because John is just so knowledgeable about all of those things. Okay, let's do some headlines with Kim. When we come back, we can bitch and moan about PG&E because we have to save time for that. And then I have this great video. Did you see the video of LeVar Burton calling out the moms of liberty? I love
so
it.
Glad you have this. I
am so excited to replay it. I've watched it a million times. Okay, you guys, please click the thumbs up button. Show your support for the show. We absolutely love it. The super chat is live. And here's some headlines.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
There are multiple reports that say Israel and Hamas appear to be near a hostage deal that would coincide with a temporary ceasefire.
Oh, good.
The deal would free 50 women and children for the return of Palestinian prisoners. The reports have yet to be confirmed officially by either side, but that is the scuttlebutt. It would be, again, 50 women and children for the return of Palestinian prisoners and a ceasefire. President Biden is meeting with Mexican President Lopez Obrador later today. The White House says the two leaders will meet on the sidelines of the APEC forum that's currently underway in San Francisco. Biden and Lopez Obrador are expected to discuss the migrant crisis at the U.S.-Mexico border and what the White House calls a hemispheric-wide response to this challenge. The effort to expel New York Congressman George Santos from Congress, it is underway. House Ethics Committee Chairman Michael Guest introducing a resolution today to expel Santos after the committee released a report claiming he violated federal laws. The report found Santos blatantly stole from his campaign, using funds on luxury items, cosmetic procedures, and payments for his personal credit cards and debt.
Yeah, kick rocks, dude. Bye.
California Congressman Adam Schiff is leading the race for the Senate seat, formerly held by the late Dianne Feinstein. According to a new survey by Emerson College polling Nexstar Media, the Democrat has 40% of the support, while nearly the same number of people are undecided. When asked which candidate they would vote for in the March primary, the race is much tighter. 16% said Schiff, 13% said Congresswoman Katie Porter, 10% said former baseball star Steve Garvey, and 9% said Congresswoman Barbara Lee.
Wow. That's kind of, I've been seeing a lot of Barbara Lee ads on my television lately. Have you seen any Katie Porter ones that are not online? They haven't been on television. I've seen them online, where she's like, trying to get up some support. But Barbara Lee is really blanketing the TV with advertising, and then you read those poll numbers, and it's like, oh, geez, that's important. I mean, I'm a Katie Porter fan, not knocking Barbara Lee, but this is her last shot. If she doesn't get it, she's not going to be a senator. So,
Yeah. Maybe the ads are different in Southern California than Northern, because Barbara Lee is here in the Bay Area, whereas both Porter and Schiff are based in Southern California.
I'm sorry, are you going to be the senator for the entire state of California or not? Yeah, there should be ads up here.
It looks like the United Auto Workers union members have approved a new contract with the big three U.S. automakers. The vote was close among members of General Motors, with around 55% voting in favor of the deal. Preliminary results show members at Stellantis, Ford, and Ford are also on track to approve the contract. And the threat of a government shutdown is over for now. President Biden signed a bill to keep the government funded through early 2024 last night. The measure passed both chambers with bipartisan support in a major victory for newly elected Speaker Mike Johnson. The Thanksgiving travel season officially begins today.
It's crazy.
This year is expected to be one of the busiest ever. More than 55 million Americans will travel 50 miles or more for Thanksgiving this year, according to a AAA projection. This is a disturbing story.
Ooh, okay.
450 patients of a Massachusetts hospital could have been exposed to hepatitis and HIV because of an improper IV administration over the last 2 years.
Wow.
Officials at Salem Hospital say it affected those getting an endoscopy. The hospital has notified all patients that it may have exposed and given tests for hepatitis and HIV. They say they worked with the state public health department to manage the situation.
Okay, so I'm sorry. How what's happening?
So at this Salem Hospital in Massachusetts, there's a possibility that 450 patients were exposed to hepatitis or HIV.
HIV. An endoscopy?
They were endoscopy patients, and they were given an IV improperly, or the IV somehow was in contact with some type of equipment, or
how does that? That's what's blowing my mind. I'm like, wait a minute. I get that there's an IV, but I mean, everything should be in its own little package, right? I mean, how do you? I'm not sharing my IV needle. I didn't think.
Maybe whatever medicine they're giving for the endoscopy has to route through other equipment that's
weird.
A staff member didn't realize needed to be cleaned and sanitized every time. All it takes is one bonehead to screw up the process, right?
Yeah, I know. That's crazy. That is crazy.
More than 300,000 drivers in Southern California will not have to wait until next month for the I-10 to reopen. Repairs are going faster than expected. Traffic will be moving by Tuesday at the latest. So they thought this was going to be up to 8 weeks. It's next week they think they managed to get this open. The repairs are going faster than expected. Los Angeles freeway damaged last Saturday in a pallet fire underneath an overpass. And again, the work is just going really well. And so
apparently it wasn't as damaged as they thought it was when they looked at it. So that's always a good thing, like, because at first I was like, you're talking weeks ahead of schedule. I don't want to, I definitely am not going to be there on the first day. How about that?
Nikki's like, is it going to hold? I don't know.
I'm not be the first one across, but if it kind of holds, okay, good for you.
The U.S. food industry may be heading into a period of deflation. After 3 years of punishing price hikes, food prices have increased 25% since the pandemic started. While food prices are mostly still going up, the pace of food inflation has slowed in recent months as supply chain disruptions are largely, they say, in the rearview mirror, and energy costs have declined. Unless you're a PG&E customer, in which case 18%. I've been wanting to tell you about this story.
Oh, please do.
I think I mentioned this story when it happened. There was a Humvee that was ripped off from the armory in Santa Rosa.
Yes, I think you did
remember that story?
Yes.
I think I have a picture.
Did they find the armored vehicle? It'd be really hard to hide it.
Found it after months. Yes. Here's a picture of it. This Humvee. It has been found and a person arrested.
Ooh, do we have the name of the person arrested?
Anthony Stabile.
Okay.
He's 34 years old. He was charged in Sonoma County Superior Court in Santa Rosa with vandalism of over $400 in damage. Excuse me. Shooting at an unoccupied vehicle, shooting from a vehicle, having a firearm not registered to him, recklessly evading law enforcement, and driving or taking a vehicle without consent. Those are 6 felonies for Mr. Stabile. He's going away, likely, if he's convicted, for a bit. Yeah, that's true. So he allegedly took this Humvee from the armory in Santa Rosa. They'd been looking for this for months. And finally, somebody spotted it last week.
How
And
interesting.
they gave, apparently, I guess there was some type of report to the Sonoma County sheriffs that someone in a Humvee shot at a PG&E vehicle on Highway 116. So the sheriff's office and the CHP start searching for it. They find it on the Bodega Highway outside Sebastopol. They try to pull it over. The driver, though, continues toward Petaluma on Stony Point Road. They set up spike strips, puncture the Humvee's tire. There's a chase. Finally, it stops. And that's how they arrest this guy. You know, the minute he takes it out and starts going for a joyride and shooting at other people, allegedly,
yeah, that's going to be a problem.
When they find it.
Yeah,
so the Humvee, Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say these are the type of vehicles that my father-in-law. He was the president of the Military Vehicles Collectors Club.
Oh,
but
wow.
I've seen these Humvees everywhere, and I'm wondering, just because of the timing, if he thought he was going to blend in for like oftentimes Veterans Day parades and things like that. So that's what I was wondering, if maybe he's like, oh, I'll take it out. No one's going to notice me because there's going to be all these military vehicles. Nope.
Shooting at someone definitely calls attention to you.
Yeah, don't shoot anybody.
Yeah.
You
The
moron.
Humvee has been returned to the California National Guard Armory in Santa Rosa, and they say it'll soon be retired. Meanwhile, Mr. Stabile is locked up in the Sonoma County Jail in Santa Rosa on $1,035,000 bail.
Wow.
That's a lot. That's a chunk.
That's a lot. Exactly.
So that is what is happening with the mysterious case of the missing Humvee. Humvee. Lastly, there are continued reports that show fake charities also ran concessions at the Chula Vista Amphitheater in San Diego.
Ooh.
You think you're buying something and giving money to cancer research, but no, you're not. You're just buying it and giving money to the people that are selling it. The Voice of San Diego says in addition to fake charities operating at sports venues, they were operating at other large-scale locations too. Apparently, the group didn't pay taxes or minimum wages, violated the rules around alcohol and child labor, too. And they say in addition to places like Petco Park, Snapdragon Stadium, and the sports arena, the groups also worked at the amphitheater in Chula Vista. Busted. You can't do that. Nope.
Busted.
Busted.
Busted, and you're caught.
This is the last story, I promise.
Okay.
Snoop Dogg says he's quitting smoking. He has
Smoking
a great smoke
weed?
out. Yeah. The rapper, famously known for his penchant for smoking the weed, made the announcement on Instagram. He asked for privacy at this time. Paired with a solemn black and white portrait of himself, the post left some wondering if the announcement was a joke. But he says he's quitting smoking everything, including weed. Yeah.
Well, I didn't think that he smoked cigarettes, so I would always assume. I mean, I don't think he smokes meth, so obviously it would just be weed. Now he's getting up there. There was one interview he gave, and he said the only person that's been able to ever outsmoke me was, do you know who it was?
No. Martha?
No. That'd be funny. Willie Nelson.
Oh, makes perfect sense.
Yeah. He's like Willie Nelson. I'm 100% positive that was who it was. Outsmoked him. He's like, nope, I'm done. I am done. So Willie been doing it a little bit longer than Snoop Dogg, but it's good. You shouldn't smoke. Look, I'm not knocking anybody's, extracurricular activities and that sort of thing. But when you smoke something and it's a combustible thing that you're inhaling into your lungs, there's going to be an effect, right? Yeah. So we were talking about the Great American Smokeout yesterday and quitting smoking cigarettes. on occasion, doing things that are bad for you is okay, I guess. But if you're going to smoke like Snoop Dogg, I bet there's a health impact involved somewhere around there.
And I do want to tell you that today is National Baklava Day.
It's a lot of national days, but I love me some baklava. Do you remember our colleague, Jared? His mom would make baklava, and she would bring it in sometimes. It's the only baklava I've ever eaten in my life, and it was hella good. So yeah. So happy National Baklava Day.
There's a place in Petaluma. It's called the Real Donner, and they have these special sandwiches that you can find in the I want to say the Middle East, Donner sandwiches.
Okay.
And they have traditional baklava, and I am telling you, it is so good.
It is so good. There's some other national days. Today's National Butter Day, which, I mean, I love butter. Never, ever. I love butter. Butter is so great. It's also World Prematurity Day, like for preemies. That's really cute.
I had one of those.
National Homemade Bread Day. Oh, I should have made some bread. I just figured this out today. There's some good bread out there. Ooh, that's baklava. It is so yummy. It is so very good. With the phyllo dough. Oh, it's so
delicious.
yummy. It is really yummy. It can be sweet though. There's a reason why they cut it into like these little tiny squares. You know what I mean? It can get really sweet for some. Ooh, Sam, try to crush some baklava with vanilla ice cream. That sounds bomb. Yum. Okay, so that's it. So everybody,
this report is crowdfunded, which means we do rely on you. Please find us at the NikkiMedoroShow.com. The NikkiMedoroShow.com is where you'll find all the links to all the things and all the ways you can help the show and yourself as well. I'm Kim McAllister. This is the Nikki Medoro Show.
And again, you guys, I had mentioned that I now have a list of my favorite things that I'm going to be adding to. I'll add more things today. And someone was, where do I find it? In the show notes with all the links on YouTube, you can find it. But there it is. If you know what Linktree is, it's Linktree, but there's a period between the R and the E's / Nikki Medoro. It's there's a link in the show notes.
Linktree.e.
Yeah, it's Linktree, but a period. Yeah. There it is. It's on your screen. Just look up Nikki Medoro Linktree. I'm sure you'll find it. You'll see my show logo. You'll know that it's there. You'll see my eye mask that I've been laughing about all day. I am telling you, just do a little ad for this eye mask again. And I put it in the box of my favorite things that I gave away in the raffle. I am telling you, I could go to sleep on the beach, under the sun, no light. I'm just saying, for people like me, who the tiniest pinprick of light disturbs your sleep, this is the mask. So I will not recommend things that I don't personally love. And so that's why I put it up there. So if you want to check it out and buy things through it, and that would be awesome. So there you go. Okay. So let's talk and bitch and moan, shall we? About what we knew was going to happen. Now, I was telling you guys yesterday, I was just trying to get Loretta Lynch on to talk about the PG&E rates going up, which we knew was going to happen. It was just how they were going to sell it to us, right? She, let's all be jealous, is in Venice. So she emailed me. She's like, I'd love to talk about this abomination. So we know how Loretta Lynch feels. She's like, but I won't be back until December. And I'm like, enjoy your vacation. Let me know when you're home and we'll get her back on.
Yeah.
To kind of commiserate. It really, truly feels, Kim, like there's nothing we can do. I'm going to play you a little bit just because they have some of the hearing yesterday, the CPUC meeting that was nowhere near San Francisco. And I know they're going to argue APEC and all kinds of nonsense. That's why we had to be so far away. But a bunch of people called in very, very upset that this was going to happen. It's amazing that they have public hearings to hear public input, and it's as if it is falling on deaf ears.
Even though PG&E was the main subject of the meeting, the CPUC vote was held in El Centro, a 600-mile trip from CPUC's San Francisco headquarters. Nonetheless, PG&E's rate increase drew a lot of fiery public comment by phone.
You cannot give any rate increases to investor-owned utility power companies like the convicted felon PG&E.
PG&E is guilty of criminal neglect and manslaughter. Their fiery greed burns Californians alive in their homes.
They have devastated, they have incinerated communities, killed people, already raised rates multiple times.
We heard much the same in El Cerrito. but in more muted tones.
It's already high. PG&E is just it's a huge expense for people, and I'm looking for solar, to be honest with you.
I think that they've been bailed out a lot by the government, and they're going to be bailed out by regular people like us. They're probably too big to fail.
I just feel like it's long over time for California to have a public utility.
But even more venom was aimed at the Utilities Commission itself.
You're still doing the bidding of the monopolies you are supposed to regulate and not protecting the public from them, as is your charter. Do your damn job or find yourself as distrusted and hated as the Supreme Court.
You represent only the interests of the utility companies and are most likely being financially well rewarded for advancing their proposals.
PG&E and the Utility Reform Group see it all very differently.
The commission didn't fully fund our proposal, but we are committed to delivering on the critical safety and reliability work.
I don't like this woman. I'm just going to say she sold her soul to the devil. Whenever we talk about, the move from the media to PR happens, I could never work for PG&E. I could never work for PG&E and shill for this company when she's so full of crap. Oh, we only got half of what we asked for. You shouldn't get any. When your CEO makes more than $50 freaking million, shareholders are making profits and we're taking it in the shorts.
On behalf of our customers, that was approved by the commission.
Which we think is more than is necessary to provide safe and reliable service.
In the last couple of years, we have reduced wildfire risk on our system by about 94%.
Shut up. We just see rate increase after rate increase after rate increase, really when customers can't bear to take on more.
Now, on top of all the other recent rate increases, these newest higher rates become effective New Year's Day with more rate increases requests on the table.
And of course, who really thinks that they're going to deny them? Nobody. No, it's as if the yelling and the screaming that the actual people that have to pay the bills are doing is being completely ignored. And again, Newsom, what in the bleep are you doing about it? Nothing. He's doing absolutely nothing. The guy that loves to talk about price gouging and going after oil companies and blah, 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 blah. Shut up unless you're going to do something about PG&E. It drives me nuts. Drives me nuts. Harry, thank you so much for the $10 donation. FPG&E, Harry says. Have a Medoro mule on me, and please, what slang are kids using today? Oh, Harry, you were reading the show notes for today. We're going to get into that. I'll give a little bit of a tease. I also want to say thank you to Marilyn, who actually came in earlier with a $5 super sticker.
Oh,
just saw it. Thank you, Marilyn, so very much. Yeah, we'll talk about slang. There's all kinds of slang. For instance, when we're talking about these PG&E rates and how they justify it, it's a bit sus, I should say. That's a bit of slang for you right there. You could say it's a bit sus. My daughter, if she was sitting here right now, would be like mortified of me using any sort of slang.
Oh my God, Mom, you're such a dork.
Oh God, yeah, exactly. So let's read some of your comments. Leon says undergrounding the lines is a cash grab for PG&E stockholders. They can be shielded equally safe at much cheaper above ground. And like Loretta Lynch has mentioned, not every power line needs to be put underground, right? In urban areas where it's mainly, cement all around us, they could just be tightened. There are certain things that really cheap devices that they could put that reduces the slag on the lines that leads to things like that. Yes, obviously bury them in, wildfire areas, right? Forests and things like that, where it's obvious a little spark can just go haywire. But PG&E is not going to do it in the most cost-effective way. Why would they? It doesn't cost them anything. They have zero skin in the game. They make profits. Their shareholders make profits. We get screwed. It
over
sucks.
and over again.
It
every
sucks
single
so
time.
bad.
Every time they go to the CPUC, it's like a rubber stamp. Boom.
Yeah,
Whatever
exactly.
You want.
Oh, would you like this? I mean, and again, and I would say, like, similar to protests that we've been seeing all week, raise your voices, write your governor, all the things that we promoted, but we're wasting our stamps. We're wasting our oxygen, it seems like. And I don't want to feel that way, but I just feel in this case, it is. And absolutely, I wish that we would buy PG&E. Unfortunately, we have a governor who doesn't give a shit. Sorry, he doesn't. He does not care. If he did, he would have He puts out a tweet or a video about all sorts of stuff that he cares about on a moment's freaking notice. Seems to be a bit crickets from Newsom's office about this. And it makes me so upset. It really, really does. But I don't know what we're going to do. I saw somebody, I don't know if it was Calvin or somebody had put in, get off of PG&E, get solar. They also approved, the multifamily units, schools, apartments going solar. Yeah. 80%. They're going to take, right? They're reducing the payout. They're reducing the incentives, right? For all of these buildings to move over to solar. It's so obvious what they're doing, and there's nobody holding them accountable. I don't know. I'm just, and should we recall Newsom over it? I mean, I don't believe in recalling. I'm going to hands down say this. No. I think the recall effort after an election, especially after also he beat a recall effort, is a waste of time and money. But I do think that every press conference that he has, he should be hounded by Californians about this. It should be a thorn in his side. It should be a big, huge black mark on his political future, that if you can't even regulate a utility in the state of California, what makes you think you'd be able to run a country? Like, we need to just call him out for it. Do something, damn it. It's just so frustrating. It's so
Perhaps,
frustrating.
I would say, instead of maybe jetting off to China and Israel,
Right?
it might be helpful if you took care of the problems we have here at home, like people not being able to afford power.
Exactly.
Because you're being priced out of California. And this is just another example.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
I get that PG&E is probably giving boatloads of money to politicians, and they don't want to do anything to rock that boat.
Screw that.
But at some point, you have to stand up for Californians
Yes.
and ratepayers and say, you know what? Enough is enough, PG&E. It's not a free money grab forever.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it wasn't surprising. It would have been surprising if they actually listened to the people, but they didn't. Some people were surprised on a different note. Well, my husband showed me this meme and I was like, did he really say it? Did he really say that? Or is it just something that someone superimposed? And then I found this video of LeVar Burton trolling Moms for Liberty at the National Book Awards.
Welcome everyone to the 74th National Book Awards. Yes. Before we get going, are there any Moms for Liberty in the house? Moms for Liberty?
Of course they're not there.
No? Good. Then hands will not need to be thrown tonight.
I mean, now some people, I think somebody mentioned in the comments, always become politicized. It's not political to not believe in removing books from libraries. I mean, the guy behind Reading Rainbow does not want some moms that have too much time on their hands and who probably like them books way too much that they're against doing what they're doing and getting librarians arrested or whatever. It's absolutely ridiculous. But I love the fact that LeVar Burton did that. And I really do think the reason why I also wanted to bring it up is, although there have been some wins for these extreme groups like Moms for Liberty, there has been also, hopefully some effective pushback. I think people are waking up, especially during elections like we saw with Roe v. Wade and issue 1 in Ohio and all those sorts of things. That, yeah, it's all fine and dandy to have a conversation. Like, they should really restrict this more. It's different when you make it law of the land, right? It really is. When you start seeing libraries being emptied, when you start seeing classic books that you read and are just fine, right, being pulled from the shelves, it does make you wonder where we're going as a country. A different hot button issue, of course.
That's the focus. I mean,
right.
I'm not to belabor the point, but it is a political issue.
It is.
Because the Moms for Liberty made it a political issue when they came out against LGBTQ books in the library, against books like the one my daughter just read for her high school English class that called The Hate You Give. Right?
Oh yeah, my daughter read that too.
They want to take that one away. They want to take all these books away that, I mean, what they don't want you to have ideas. They don't want you to think about new things, right?
They don't want you to be exposed to things that you're already being exposed to. Like, and it's words in a book, it's not even videos or anything like that. It's literally a book. It's words.
They want you to stay in your own little world, in your own little bubble, and not think outside of it. Well, in that case, Moms for Liberty are the ones that made it political. And so LeVar Burton is just, finally swiping back. And I say, excellent. Finally, someone comes out, not finally, because we have been all along. Someone comes out on the side of rational thought.
Exactly.
Great.
Exactly. I don't know what MFL means. MFL wants to ban Of Mice and Men and Huckleberry Finn. What do they want? Kids reading Mein Kampf? Maybe you mean Florida. I literally went into my son's room the other day. Oh, bringing food. Went into my son's room last night. Nice. It's National Bread Day. Yay. And he had a Huckleberry Finn on the floor. And I was like, where'd you get? I'm like, oh, you reading this in class? And he's like, no, I got it at Barnes & Noble when he went with my husband the other day. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. I'm glad that you owned this book. Like, not that I'm worried that he wouldn't be exposed to these books because that's not the household that we live in, but it was just nice to see it there. But again, I love the point you were making of Moms for Liberty were the ones that were making such a big deal out of something that wasn't a big deal. I mean, between when we were in school and now, my parents were never concerned. I grew up just fine. It's as if they don't want people to have any critical thinking. And again, like I mentioned earlier this week, for some reason, they seem to identify in a negative way with the negative things that are happening in these books. And by they, I mean like Moms for Liberty and others. Blue Spark says, so maybe I'm just dumb, but what does banning books and conversation have to do with liberty? Right. You're not dumb. It's you're trying to restrict something and saying, we believe in freedom. No, you believe in creating really archaic rules around things that don't need to be controlled. Moms for Liberty. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you. I wasn't following it along. The other thing that all of a sudden in recent years, people have been up in arms about are drag shows, right? Yes. That was never a big deal. I mean, movies, TV shows, we understood what drag was. It seemed like we did. We didn't have any sort of perversion around it. Well, I mean, score one, I guess, for right now. The Supreme Court has ruled that Florida cannot enforce its anti-drag show law while the case kind of continues through the lower courts, right? So they cannot ban drag shows. Now, apparently, I guess in Florida, it was banned everywhere, but at Hamburger Mary's, maybe they had an exemption or anything. But yeah, they're saying you can't enforce this, and they're looking into whether it violates obvious, First Amendment free speech rights and things like that. I don't know when this became topic du jour. I don't understand. And obviously, well, I could see where it's coming from, right? The whole, being more accepting of the LGBTQ community and more attention being placed on the T in the LGBTQ community really made people uncomfortable. They see, transgender, they see drag shows, they think they are one and the same, right? They don't understand anymore the art, the comedic effect of drag shows, right? They don't understand the entertainment aspect of it. The fact that it has literally been part of society for decades. I would say generations, but decades and decades and decades. It's just, and I will actually say generations. I mean, men dressing up as women is nothing new. Nothing new. You can go back to the beginning, of the formation of this country, and you'll see evidence of men dressing up as women. And again, what is the fear? What is the fear? So I'm actually happy that at least they're not going to be able to enforce it right now. We'll see where it goes. Just as in the end, it's just people alone and give us our rights options. Okay.
Just leave people alone. Yeah.
Yeah. Just leave people alone. Keep your eyes on your own paper, as Kim loves to say.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not being harmed directly by it, if your children aren't being harmed directly by it, then you don't get to make laws on hypotheticals, right? Well, it could possibly. No, screw you, right? No. Brian says it was the pronouns, bathroom discussions that make conservatives go after the drag queens. Although if there's any sort of attention you should place on protecting the children, and there was outrage, but put all the outrage on, people like Larry Nasser, priests molesting kids, coaches. There are people you can completely direct your anger toward instead of the large swath of a community that has done you no harm, right? That's not in the headlines doing anything to children, that you're just creating this controversy. Anita Double Wide is my favorite drag queen name. That's pretty good. So yeah, I was encouraged by hearing that headline. I loved LeVar Burton's statement. I don't think that he's getting political. If you follow him on Twitter, X, whatever, he has been very, very vocal on the book bannings and all sorts of things. And yeah, I definitely think that it's about time we really start being loud with pushing back on the nonsense that is groups like Moms for Liberty. They're not doing anything good. And again, with the next presidential election coming up, if God forbid he who shall not be named right now wins re-election, which nope, I can't even wrap my mind around it. It's only going to embolden these types of groups. So if you think it's bad now, he gets reelected, they're going to feel like they have an open road to eroding your rights. And that's absolutely ridiculous.
From what I understand, and I was reading on CNN and Huffington Post last night, that apparently there are already plans in the works for retribution type of things to punish everybody who went against he who shall not be named.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like, we didn't think that he was going to be like that. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it might just be all talk, but yeah.
It's very, very scary what is happening. I just he can't be allowed to be back in. He can't.
No, he cannot. Yeah. And if he actually becomes the nominee because the GOP is so failed as a political party that they can't have somebody that's facing all of these charges as a nominee, they can't find anybody else, then it will bring the rest of us out in droves. And do not, under any uncertain terms, underestimate the young vote. I'm serious. The young people will save us all. I'm telling you, they will. Eric says if he gets reelected, he enacts Project 25. If you don't know what Project 25 is, you can Google it. It's this plan that's frightening. And it's not a new thing for the GOP to have this projection of where they want the country to go. But there are some really horrific, scary things they want to eliminate, checks and balances, how they want to use law enforcement. It's crazy. It's how they want to change our elections. Mm-hmm. It's very scary, and that's what we're fighting against. That's what we're fighting against. So, Donald, Taylor Swift will save us. Don't underestimate her. I'm telling you.
It's true.
It's true. I mean, her and people like her, right? People that have a huge platform that can gin up a lot of support and get people to register to vote. Remember Rock the Vote back in our generation, Kim, mm-hmm. Right? Getting people to because that's the thing. Everyone talks about, oh, I'm for this, I'm for that. Did you register to vote? Oh, I forgot to do that. Right. So that was the whole thing of getting these young people to actually cross the T's, dot the I's, and get registered. And but I think that this generation, our daughter's generation and our sons, are going to be way more politically active than I ever was at an earlier age. Right. Like I just, when I went to college is really when I started to form my politics. And of course, that's also when I could vote. But I feel like right now, high schoolers really aware. Now, I'm not saying they agree with their parents on everything, but right. I feel they are so much more aware of what is going on and what's not being done that when they turn 18, I'm encouraged that they'll be able to swing things in a way that gets stuff done. Because that's our problem. We protest, we sign petitions, but we have still failed, right, to put enough people in Congress that aren't beholden to special interests to do what needs to be done and make the changes that need to be done. And yeah, Kim, that scene in Miss Americana when she puts out that Instagram post about voting, yep, made me admire her even more. Yeah, people like her and any sort of person with a platform, it doesn't have to just be that type of celebrity. But when you can get through to a lot of people, you can enact change. Okay, so let's lighten things up, shall we? It is a Friday. Let's talk. Well, first off, I wanted to play this video, and then we'll get to the slang, okay? This video went viral. At least it went viral on my feed. I don't know how old it is. I don't know how old it is. Okay. But it's this guy that is confronting someone in a drive-through. And my question to you when you watch this is, do you think the customer went too far? And I'm going to preface this by saying we really only have this snippet of the interaction, okay? But I want to hear what you think about what the customer is saying and how the worker is responding. So here is the video. Here we go.
Can I ask you something, by the way? No, it's just that every time I come here, like at the late night hour, I don't know why you're like very, like, it's not even me, because I know it's not just me. Like, I'm sure you're like this way with everyone. You just like are very impatient. Like, if like you don't want this job, you don't have to be here. Like, I'm just letting you know, like, you literally rush my order every single time, and I hate having you. And I mean, I'm sure my word means nothing to you, but I'm just telling you, you have the choice to have a different profession. This isn't a profession. I'm sure you're just very incompetent and you have to work here. Hey.
So the drive-thru guy is just standing there listening to this guy kind of beat him over the head with how you're moving too quickly. I come here regularly. Your customer service skills basically suck. You're impatient and you rush me through. Have we gotten to a point in society where, as a customer, you can berate a worker in this way? One, you're in the drive-thru. I don't know about you, but the drive-thru is supposed to be fast. Like, you should know what you want. It's called fast food for a reason, and you should be able to go. Yeah, right. Fast food. Go. But what he said when he added, he's like, I know this isn't your profession. I know just because you're here because you're incompetent. He insulted him in some sort of way. It is not usually somebody's long-term career, unless you're a manager or something, to be working at the drive-through window. But it stuck out to me a little bit, Kim, because what did this customer hope to get? Because when I see videos like this, I'm like, are you trying to make a point about customer service? Are you trying to make a point about the type of people that are working in jobs nowadays? Are you trying to talk about, oh, the young people don't have any sort of work ethic? Or are you just being an a-hole, right? Are you just being an a-hole? And
I would argue, who are you to say that to someone? Isn't that their manager's job? You know, if the manager gets complaints and they're not happy with the person, I feel like, first of all, it's fast food. It's his job to rush you through.
Thank you.
What do you want to linger and say hello? No.
Yeah,
you
we're
have your
supposed to have a
credit card ready,
conversation.
you're in, you're out, you're going. That's his job. So he's clearly being efficient. Is he rude and maybe a little aloof? You want to smile with your fries?
Yeah.
Whatever. Just pay your money and keep going.
I saw one comment, and they're like,
wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
exactly.
Did he get
like,
your
order wrong?
spit?
Does he constantly put the wrong thing in the bag? Does he forget your straw every time?
All the
Does he
time,
forget
right.
to give you napkins? Then you got to complain. Say, hey, buddy, I've been here a few times, and you know,
You never give me my napkins.
Whatever. I mean, but even that seems ridiculous. So I don't know. Whatever.
I've never done fast food. I worked at Togo's. I don't know if you consider that fast food, but the whole customer service aspect is annoying. But the funniest comment I read on the video is like, you told him that he was too fast, and yet he sat there for 2 minutes listening to this BS, like listening to you like silently berate him about his performance. How much service do you expect at a fast food restaurant? I mean, what is the bare minimum that you expect?
I expect you to get my order right and get me in and out fast.
Yeah, fast. I don't want to wait there. I was in the mood. I don't know if I was in the mood for a Western bacon cheeseburger. Hadn't had one in forever. And I went to Carl's Jr. And you know, it's not, I don't know. There's something going on when you walk in and everyone's like, there's a bunch of tables, but nobody has any food. Now, I didn't know if a bunch of people walked in at the exact same time, but like nobody had their food. And so I ordered it, and I ordered, something for my daughter. And we must have sat there. I'm not even kidding. 10 minutes for food. Like, some other guys came in and I was like, oh, just know you're going to be waiting. Like, but I didn't say anything like out loud, you know, I was just thinking in my head. Mm-hmm. There was no reality in which I was going to go up to this woman. It was one woman and one guy that you could see through the window making the food. There was zero chance of me going, I'm the customer. You should be working really quickly. who's rude in this situation? Carl's Jr., who obviously didn't staff enough people to handle any sort of number of customers besides 2, or me, like being a pain in the ass, bitching and moaning about it. I just feel like, oh, this is interesting. Minimum wage, expect minimum service. I don't think that's necessarily true. I just think I'm working the drive-through, man. Put in your order, move it on through. I'm not going to, fluff you up or do anything like that. Like, let's just get going. Ms. Organic says, I went to a Jack in the Box a couple weeks ago. Actually had to wait 30 minutes.
Whoa.
What did you want? I mean, for the food or to order? The people in the drive-thru were parking and waiting. It was crazy. Okay, Ms. Organic, that's so interesting. So I know if you go to Jack in the Box like at 2:00 in the morning, there's always a long line at the drive-thru of people that have been going out and they want their 2 tacos for $1, right? 30 minutes is a long time to wait for crappy tacos.
That is
I don't know
not
what
fast
you eat.
food.
No, that is not fast food, but they
No.
do make it fresh. See, the problem with Jack in the Box, I don't know if many people understand this. It's not a problem. They make your order fresh. If you order like jalapeno poppers, you will get them there lava hot. They just put them in the fryer. Like they make everything when you order it. So that takes time, right? So you're going to wait a little bit longer than, I'm sure they make like some of their burgers or, they heat it up or whatever. But like most of the stuff, they make it for you right there, very, very fresh. So it can take some time. But 30 minutes, I would have to be really, really, really hungry and stuck in the line that I couldn't get out. Because after 10 minutes, I'm bouncing. There is no amount of fast food that would have me waiting in 30 minutes for Jack in the Box. Although I haven't had Jack in the Box in a long, long time. Mine is Taco Bell. Let's see. Oh yeah. Rod says maybe the cashier has a wife with cancer, a kid that's sick. People have their own issues. Was his food bad or cold? Yeah, exactly. Like unless, like Kim was saying, unless there's something literally wrong with my food. No. Oh, it was Sunday at 11:45? The line was long. Okay. 30 minutes. The line was long. Oh shoot. I got to send Tim Sika the link.
Everybody
to the show.
after church, right?
Yeah. I'll send it to you, Tim. Don't worry. I'll send it to you when Kim does her headlines. Everyone after church, instead of going out for breakfast, which also takes a long ass time after church, anybody knows. If you go to breakfast at 10:30 in the morning, you're catching the church crowd. My parents always do that. So, I thought that it was just really emblematic of the problem. A lower paid worker being berated by the customer for something that is part of the job. I'm sorry. My job is literally in my title. I'm a fast food worker.
Now
you are being a pain in the ass.
It would have really shown how poor the customer service was if the guy at the window had just closed the window as the guy was ranting, right?
Which is something I might have done. You know what? That's a great point. I might have done that, honestly.
But he didn't. He hung out the window and listened to that guy, right?
Well, and the thing that also sucks is like he had nowhere to go. Like it's not, unless he did close the window, but he's stuck there. And you even heard him. He's like, excuse me, like you're talking to me. I don't think I would have been as nice. I think I totally would have done what you just said, Kim. I think once he started going, and I knew I was being reported, I'd be like, have a nice day. Shut the window and be like, kick rocks. No, thank you. I don't think so at all. It is so, people have lost, many people, not all people, many people have lost the ability to be empathetic with the person on the other side of the counter, right? Yeah. Perfect example. Yesterday, I had to take my son to go clothes shopping. And normally I would wait till Christmas, but he really needed jeans. Okay. And so I ended up going to Kohl's. And no, I'm not saying that I did anything, but I was my normal cheery self. You'd be proud of me, Kim. I was chit-chatting with the cashier. So I go up to the counter and she had just opened it. And she's like, I could take it. I'm like, oh, great. And then she's like, how you doing? I'm like, I'm good. How are you? And she's like, and then she, I wasn't a Kohl's frequent buyer, so my number didn't work in the thing. And she's like, oh, you're not a Kohl's thing? And I was like, no. And she's like, it's really just your number and your email. And I was like, all right, fine. And so I put it in.
I hate that. Like
I know.
You need I don't need your emails.
Oh, I have an email address that I have. I have a spam email. That's the only one I ever put in.
You. Like I shouldn't have to give you my personal information.
Yeah, but you get a discount. So anyway, see, you wouldn't have gotten what I got. See, look, you're done. All right, now you're done. You do not get what I'm getting, right? So I go, okay, fine. I'm just standing there anyway. So I put my phone number in. I put my spammy email in, right? And then all of a sudden she's like, she asked me something. She's like, oh, do you have the Kohl's card? And I was like, no, we're definitely not doing that. I don't do credit cards. And she's like, okay. She's like, well, I'll give you 20%. And then because I just signed you up for the Kohl's, phone number thingy, you'll get enough. I dropped, my thing was over $200. I got down to like 150.
Wow.
So was it worth it then, Kim McAllister?
Well, I guess so.
Would you do it for $50? I'd do it for $50. You can have my spammy. And I don't mind giving my phone number because my phone number is in everything anyway. And the email, I never give my good email. I got to give my spammy one. It's always the Yahoo one. The Yahoo one's filled with spam. And so, yeah, but yeah, that was good customer service. I was chit-chatting. She was so nice.
Yeah.
We were cracking up with my son in line. Sometimes acting like a freaking normal human being, saying your pleases and your thank yous might get you a discount. It might not, but it'll make you feel good. You think that guy felt good driving away? Are you proud of yourself? You were an a-hole. Be proud. Stupid. Okay. I got that out of my system. All right, real quickly, before we go to Kim's headlines and then Tim Sika is going to have the news, let's go over the slang that bothers people at work. So apparently Gen Z cannot stop using slang at work. So I'm going to say some slang. You guys can let me know in the comments if you know what the definition or how to use it in a sentence. So what I'm going to make Kim do, brace yourself, woman. I'm going to give you the word.
Okay.
You need to use it in a sentence. Okay.
All right.
Okay. You think you're good? Now, what do you think? You think you're pretty good? I mean, you have a 14-year-old, so I feel like you should know all of this. I don't think it should be difficult for you at all. I knew all of these. Okay. The first one that Gen Z is bothering older people at work with. Slay.
Oh, girl, you slay in that dress.
Yes. Very good. If you don't know what slay means, it's like basically another slang term. Yas, queen. Which basically means, you're exceeding expectations. You're fabulous, basically.
Right.
You're slaying that outfit. You're slaying that project at work.
Hey, Julia, how'd you do on your biology test? I slayed.
I slayed it. Yeah, exactly. Okay, one I used earlier, sus.
I don't know about your math teacher. He's a little sus.
There you go. He's a little suspicious. It's short. Everybody, it has to be shortened. Everything is a little sus. Sus is one I actually, it's the ones that I've gotten into my vernacular a little bit. FR.
Oh. I don't know this one.
So it's an abbreviation, kind of. I don't think it's an abbreviated version of for real. So,
okay.
Yeah. So for real, like normally I see it typed out. I don't see someone saying FR out loud, but they type it FR.
Okay.
Okay. The next one is vibing.
She wanted me to go to Starbucks, but we weren't really vibing.
Yes, exactly. Like we weren't getting along, that sort of thing. I don't think any of these are very hard to figure out. Okay. This is one, flex.
I don't know.
Okay, so to flex, it's like kind of like you're bragging, right? Like he's, he got an A on his test. He was totally flexing around the classroom today, or something like that.
Flexing your muscles.
Yeah, flexing your muscles, but it could also be like a behavior type. It's like bragging or gloating or something like that. Okay, glow up. Glow, GLOW.
Last year she looked like an 8th grader, but now she had a real glow up over the summer.
Perfect
and
example.
She looks amazing.
Yes. Such a glow up. Well, I actually used this last night. I forget what I was saying. I was like, they definitely had a glow up over that. Yeah. This one you will constantly hear kids saying, bet.
Bet like BET?
No?
No.
It means you agree. So so it's like that chick's hot, bet. Yeah, like I agree with you. That's what you mean. That's what you mean. And then this is one that really honestly isn't one in my opinion. Period.
I don't like you. Period.
Yes, it is literally the resurgence, the glow up
period.
Of a period. Exactly. Period has had a glow up because remember we still aren't supposed to use periods in typing, but saying it apparently is okay.
Emphasis, yes.
Yes, exactly. I love slang and I love trying to use it with kids because now we are at the age where when we use it, apparently we sound like morons to these kids. I love John. Damn, Skippy. There's so many back in the day slang words that,
I have one for you. I read this
okay.
story the other day.
Mm-hmm.
This is a new term.
I just bowled over laughing or bent over laughing or something like that.
I just burst out laughing.
Burst out laughing, yeah, something like that.
That was really good that you got
that. I'm telling you, Kim, I got my finger on the pulse of some slang.
I told Julia I heard LOL is dead and Idgeball is the new thing, and she goes, "What the heck's that?"
Oh, I think that's a texting thing.
Yeah.
It's not a really you don't say it. Although, lol. I mean, I laugh at people that say lol. Don't lol at me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, slang is just, it's funny. It definitely shows your age. Bitchin', William says. Yeah, no. Riz.
That's old.
You know what Riz is? You know what Riz?
I used to know, but I've forgotten.
So Riz it's short for charisma. So you have Riz. That's what it is.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'll come clean and say that I didn't know that one.
I try my best. I really, really do. It's not easy. I'm going to tell you. Okay, let's do some headlines. And then Tim Sika will join us. He did not watch the new Troll movie. So we do not have that one. But he watched the other movie that I've been dying to see.
What a disappointment.
No,
I sent him the link, by the way, while you were chit-chatting.
Oh, I did too. Oh,
Okay.
Good. But yeah, so we'll talk about movies. We'll talk about streaming. It's a fabulous Friday. But first, some headlines.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
This is the Nikki Medoro Show, and let us get to the news. The Israel-Hamas war is reportedly... well, it's now on its 42nd day, I'll say that. Then Israel is reportedly close to dismantling the military system in the northern part of the Gaza Strip. Its forces will start to focus on the southern part of the region. Israeli forces searched several hospitals this week. They say they found tunnels and weapons in some of them. That's what they say. It looks like United Auto Worker union members have approved a new contract with the big three U.S. automakers. The vote pretty close among members at General Motors, with about 55% voting in favor. Preliminary results show members at Stellantis and Ford now also on track to approve it as well. The effort to expel New York Congressman George Santos from Congress is underway. I have to say expel like Hermione Granger, and you'll be expelled. House Ethics Committee Chairman Michael Guest introduced a resolution today to expel Santos after the committee released a report claiming he violated federal laws. The resolution could be brought up to the House floor soon, after Thanksgiving, they think. Meanwhile, as we mentioned earlier, the Thanksgiving travel season officially begins today, so it's going to be one of the busiest ever. The airports will be packed, the roads will be packed. Just expect an increase in traffic. The March of Dimes is giving the United States a D+ for the second year in a row when it comes to preterm birth rates. Preterm birth rates before 37 weeks, one of the leading causes of newborn death. There was a 3% spike last year. It's the highest in 2 decades, with Black babies among those at highest risk, sadly. The uncle of a Northern California man shot by police is now on a state police accountability board. Governor Gavin Newsom appointed Cephas Johnson. He worked on the 2013 movie Fruitvale Station, which tells the story of what happened to his nephew at an Oakland train station 4 years earlier. Oscar Grant was killed while handcuffed on the ground when an officer claims he mistakenly grabbed his gun instead of his taser. The officer, Johannes Meserly, was convicted and he served 2 years. Johnson joins 8 others on the board who review police misconduct cases.
You know, I still to this day have not been able to watch Fruitvale, the movie. I just find it it's just one of those things that because we lived it so closely because we were in the media. Not that we lived it, but you know what I mean? Like just the details. And I want to, every time I've seen it on I'm like, you know what? I just don't need to go through it. I don't need to have a Hollywood interpretation of it. It's just, it was so horrific. It just was awful.
Well, apparently his uncle was part of the movie. So I don't know. And I think it was filmed by Oakland filmmakers. So I don't know.
Behind Black Panther. And I'm blanking on his name right now.
I suspect it's pretty realistic.
Ryan Coogler.
Yeah, I don't know how Hollywoody it is, but I feel like
Oh no, I'm sure it's really good. It's just
Yeah.
emotionally, I don't want to go through it again. You know what I mean? Like, the movie's fabulous, I'm sure, but
what do you think of putting someone who lost a family member, has been a public critic of police and police shootings, putting them on this board for police misconduct review? You think that's a good idea? Or do you think he comes into it with a bias?
Well, I think everybody has a bias. I mean, it's impossible to not come into a bias, but I think that somebody that's been directly impacted by police brutality, right? Police misconduct, right? As we were talking about the CPUC and the PG&E, you don't want fans, but you also don't want somebody that can't think, critically about it. And I think that it's going to be both. And it's not just him. If it was just him, obviously. But no, there's going to be a bunch of different type of people. But of course, this needs to be represented. Of course it does. So that they can fully understand when things go wrong and when things go right. So I don't have any problem with that.
This next story is kind of yucky. There is an Indian company that recently recalled eye drops sold in the United States.
Yeah.
And they've had a host of sanitation and manufacturing problems. Among them, barefoot workers, cracked floors, and altered records. U.S. health inspectors with the FDA uncovered more than a dozen problems at the Mumbai plant operated by Killich Healthcare India. According to an inspection report, this is supposed to be a sanitary facility, right?
Of course, it's eye drops, right?
The factory produced more than 24 varieties of eye drops that were subject to an FDA safety warning last month. They were sold at CVS, Target, Rite Aid, and other national retailers. They're all pulling these things from the shelves now after we know a little bit more about problems at the plant. Agency inspectors documented factory workers not wearing masks, not wearing gloves or gowns, working barefoot in areas that are supposed to be sterile. A manager telling the FDA this is their standard practice.
Oh my God. If you can't hear, my mouth is open. That is disgusting. Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh geez.
maybe.
Yeah. I told my mom, because my mom has dry eye, but I told you that her insurance paid for her to do something with her blood where they take her blood and they do something with it. And they create eye drops made of her own genetic material. So these eye drops, she has to keep it refrigerated, and it's like her own genetic material. It's really cool. So she doesn't use any of these eye drops anymore. But I was texting, I was like, don't ever use any of the eye drops. They're all bad.
No.
Yeah.
Skiers across California making plans to hit the slopes this weekend. Boreal Mountain Resort near Tahoe opening this morning, becoming among the first in the state to kick off the winter season.
Nice.
Officials say they have a solid 24-inch base thanks to more than a dozen snow guns. 2 other ski resorts had planned to open today as well, but Heavenly and North Star are dealing with a little warmer than expected weather, so they may have to rely on snowmaking. And we'll find out more from Tim Sika in mere moments, but the Hunger Games, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is off to a really fast start at the box office.
Good. I hope it's good.
The prequel film made close to $6 million from Thursday previews at North American theaters yesterday. It is expected to make between $45 and $60 million in its first weekend in theaters. So we'll see if Tim likes it.
I know. I want to hear if Tim likes it, because we kind of disagree on some things, but I'm really hoping that it's good.
Yeah.
So
this report is crowdfunded, which means we rely on you. Huge thank you to everyone who supports the show on an ongoing basis. You'll find us at Patreon and PayPal by going to thenikkimedoroughshow.com. It is The Nikki Medoro Show, Nikki Medoroshow.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Nikki Medoro Show.
Yes, not meh. Me, it's me. Okay, thank you to Sam, who just came in with a $10 donation to our super chat. Nikki and Kim are the best.
So
period.
nice.
Using some slang right there. Thank you also to Doug with the $5 super sticker, Jess with the $5 super sticker, saying that we have Riz, Kim. We have Riz.
We got Riz.
And let's say another thank you to a $10 donation from Harry and an FP Genie. Woo-hoo. And a $5 donation from Marilyn. Thank you guys so very much. And again, my favorite things is up. You can check it out in the show notes. I have my Linktree link up. Just look for my favorite things. There it is on the screen. And I'll be putting more stuff into it. And I appreciate each and every one of you.
Julie Andrews, every time you say my favorite things, it just runs right through my
my
head.
My favorite things.
Exactly.
Well, you know what one of my favorite things is?
Tim Sika.
Tim Sika. There you go.
Who is
I don't know
a
how to
huge Julie
follow
Andrews
that.
fan.
Yeah. I'm a big Julie Andrews fan. Yeah.
All right.
I like the reference.
There you go. Well, let's see what else you're a fan of, shall we, my friend?
Yes,
So,
let's do it.
Let's start with the big one that Kim just mentioned, the new Hunger Games.
The Hunger Games. Yeah.
What did you think?
Well, let me say a little bit about the movie first. It's a prequel, right? To the original Hunger Games trilogy.
Yes.
And it's set something like 60 some years before the events of the first movie. And in it, the son of the guy's name is General Crassus. He was played by Donald Sutherland in the other movies. Anyway, he's killed in action. So in this movie, the focus is on his 18-year-old son. His name is Coriolanus, and he's played by Tom Bly, British actor, who wants to kind of restore the family's prestige in Panem, which is the wealthy dystopian universe where they all live. Anyway, so as the movie begins, it's the 10th annual Hunger Games, and Coriolanus is assigned to be a mentor, one of 24, to a female tribute. Her name is Lucy Gray. She's played by Rachel Zegler, who played Maria in Stevens. Yeah, she's so good. Anyway, he, along with the other mentors, is told by the author of the games, played by Peter Dinklage. Peter Dinklage is everywhere these days, and he's great in this movie. Anyway, that due to the low viewership of the games, Coriolanus, like the rest of the mentors of these tributes, and of course the tributes were the people who competed in the games to the death, they should focus their mentoring on entertaining the viewers rather than winning the games. So a little bit of sinister stuff there. And I'm going to go so far as to say that this was my favorite of all the Hunger Games movies.
Really?
Yes, for a number of reasons. Mostly, this one was played like a classical high drama more than like a comedy satire. Though there's a bit of the comedy satire. Jason Schwartzman plays the host of the games. He's like this TV host.
Right.
But the focus is on the drama, and it's intense. And the movie's in 3 acts or parts. Part 1 is the mentor. Part 2, I think, is the prize, and part 3 is called the Peacekeeper. And yeah, it's a 2-hour and 37minute movie.
Okay,
so it's a bit
long.
It's a bit lengthy. And
it's not Oppenheimer or anything, but yeah.
Yeah, right. And the third act sags just a little bit, but not in a way that's ruinous to the overall movie. The cast is great. Viola Davis is fantastic as this head gamekeeper, and she's like the first person who actually implemented the games in the first place. Tom Bly, Rachel Zegler is the 2 leads, also very good. Excellent direction by Francis Lawrence. The filmmakers also take full advantage of Zegler's singing voice in this movie, which is nice. She has some songs to sing. And yeah, really good script. And for me, this movie had a kind of a lasting effect and made me really think about it. It was relevant because, like all the movies in the series, this one is about, for me, the lengths people will go to be entertained. And in our present world, all I have to do is think about people's absorption with social media and how the news is now all about ratings and keeping you watching. Anyway, I recommend this Hunger Games. I don't think you need to have seen the others to fully get this one and enjoy it, but especially if you like a good, solid, serious drama. This was just, I was never bored for a second. It really pulled me in. And I like the other ones too. I think they're all great, but this one this one especially really worked for me. I loved it. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, I definitely want to see that. I don't know if I'll have time this weekend, but it's definitely on my must-watch list. Let's go to Napoleon.
Yeah, Napoleon, director Ridley Scott's epic.
And that's Joaquin Phoenix right there, right?
Yeah, that's Joaquin Phoenix. Yeah, he's probably about the best thing about this movie. Yeah, this is about, Napoleon Bonaparte. Played by Phoenix, his skirmishes on the battlefield and his relationship with Empress Josephine, played by Vanessa Kirby. And I love historical dramas, so I was in the bag for this movie from the get-go. And I've seen all the other Napoleon movies. You know, Stanley Kubrick was planning a massive one for years until it was abandoned for reasons we don't even have time to go into. So I was in the bag for this Napoleon, and I'm still letting it settle a bit because it was a bit overwhelming, let's just say, and not in an exhilarating way, but more in a fatiguing kind of way.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's a hugely impressive film in terms of scale. The battle scenes alone will just like take your breath away. They are also, however, breathtakingly brutal. But also exhausting and somewhat like unrelenting. I mean, when we get to Elba, which is where Napoleon Bonaparte, that was his first exile. He was later exiled to St. Helena, where he died. But when we get to Elba, because I know this history, I'm thinking, oh God, we still have to get through the Battle of Waterloo, and I'm already done in from all the previous battles, which were very graphic, very violent, very realistic. It definitely deserves props for that. Doing kind of for battle scenes what Saving Private Ryan did for World War II movies, in the depiction of what it was most likely like for the participants in these brutal battles, not only for the men who fought, but for their horses as well. There's a lot of animal slaughter in these battles, and that's all historically accurate and something we rarely see depicted on screen. But that was hard for me to get around, all the animal slaughter. Anyway, and on top of all this, I think the main problem with the movie was with the script. Napoleon was so much more than what he is portrayed here. He was, in some ways, he was enlightened in terms of what he did for the peoples of France, and by extension his vision for the rest of the peoples that he conquered. And as history tells us, it was his ego and hubris that ultimately did him in. But whatever depth we do experience as an audience, the character as written here in this movie was due to Joaquin Phoenix's portrayal. But it seemed as though this actor hardly had anything to work with, and when it's all over, you just feel you feel tired and exhausted. And we really don't know much about Napoleon. I mean, if you don't know who Napoleon is and you come upon this movie, you go, okay, well, he fought a lot of battles.
Right.
And,
there was so much more to him than that.
Right. And he was chastened by the women in his life. But I'm going to sound like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. I recommend the film, though, especially for moviegoers who like historical dramas, because it isn't an achievement of sorts, but the script by David Scarpa, for me, was totally lacking. It just was like a sketch of Napoleon, but there wasn't anything.
No depth.
No.
Okay. All right. We'll take that for what it is, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. You know me in depth, right? I'm just so into depth.
I would say if you're gonna watch a historical movie like this, that you want the depth. That's what you're going for. You're not going for something that's just very, one note or very surface.
And it's funny. I took a friend along with me to this press screening, and you always think it's just you until you compare notes with people. And I said, well, what did you think? And he goes, I feel like I need to go to sleep.
Oh, interesting.
It's exhausting. The movie was exhausting.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know if you got exhausted watching this one. I saw a preview last week, but I feel like this is the first time I saw the preview for this movie. And this is Thanksgiving, which is a Thanksgiving horror movie.
Right. This did not exhaust me, this movie. It's a horror movie just in time for the Thanksgiving holiday.
Exactly.
Yeah. And one wherein several inhabitants of this small town, I think it was Plymouth, Massachusetts, become the ingredients for a memorable holiday meal. Let's just say that. Okay. This is a tongue-in-cheek, twisted, gross, and occasionally disgusting, in a good way, horror film about a serial killer's revenge. That's all I should say about the plot. Patrick Dempsey stars. Wasn't he just voted People Magazine's sexiest man alive?
Yes.
Patrick Dempsey.
Oh my God.
That's debatable. Anyway, whatever. Anyway, he's the star. The rest of the cast are unknowns. Gina Gershon is in this. She has a cameo. But yeah, we've seen a lot of what's in this movie before. It kind of faithfully follows the rules of the slasher genre, you know, basically this crazy tearing up a town and picking people off one by one, and like a series of over the top and very gross murders. The plot just exists to hang this series of gruesome killings on, and that's okay. It was directed by Eli Roth, who created the Hostel movies.
Yes.
And yeah, it's kind of cheesy. It's definitely twisted, at times unnerving, you know, like a good horror movie should be. Very gruesome, very disgusting. And it nicely straddles that line between realistic horror and kind of cartoony horror.
Right.
Some of it is actually funny, especially in a scene. This isn't a spoiler alert. I think this was in the trailer, but there's a scene where the wife of one of the townspeople, in place of the traditional turkey, is served as the main course of a Thanksgiving dinner before the other attendees of that meal meet their gruesome ends. You know, I think one of the taglines of the movie was something like, "This year there'll be no leftovers." So anyway. From the sick and twisted mind of Eli Roth, and for anybody else with a sick joke mind, I think this would be if you have like a sick sense of humor, this would be the movie to put on in the background during your
Thanksgiving meal.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much of it you want to look at, but it's clever and it's fun. I mean, it's a good. I think it's a good horror movie. And
nice. You don't often hear you saying that, so that means something.
Yeah, and Nikki, I think you'll love it just for the gore.
Well, it was on my list. You know me, so definitely on my list. Okay, we have two more. This one looks interesting to me. Simply for the cast alone, and it's Saltburn.
Yeah, it's another totally twisted movie. It's slicker and smoother than Thanksgiving, but in its own way, it's just as sick and twisted.
Okay.
It's also kind of tawdry. It's the tale of this young Oxford University student. He's played by Barry Keoghan, who becomes, I guess you'd say, infatuated with this charismatic and handsome and very wealthy fellow Oxford University student played by Jacob Elordi, who's all over the talk shows these days.
Yeah,
I mean,
you'll remember him. He's from
that show I have
Euphoria. He's from
Euphoria.
He's
right.
He's been in but he's also like the Kissing Booth.
I know the Kissing Booth.
I know
the
how
other
Jacob is. Yes.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that he plays this character who invites this other Oxford University student played by Barry Keoghan to his estate for the summer, whereupon, oh man, let's just say all this weird stuff happens.
Okay.
I mean, it really weird. And this isn't it. I'm gonna sound like a broken record. This is entertaining. It's colorful. It's tawdry. It's this weird tale of sex and money and murder.
That looks good to me.
But it's also it's nutritionally bankrupt. I don't think it's about very much, though it claims to be like about, you know, the nature of attraction and the power of love. I don't know though.
It didn't have anything there.
Well, I was telling a friend just the other day that watching this movie was like downing a bottle of really expensive and really good tasting wine, but then passing out afterwards. I mean, despite everything about this movie being high class, and it's very high class, the look, the photography, the set design, to me, the script was like a Patricia Highsmith ripoff. She wrote the Tom Ripley books, and the main character is a carbon copy of Tom Ripley without the originality, the freshness, and the surprise that she brought to that character. But, you know, looked at
Were you bored watching it? That's always my question. There you go.
I was not bored, but you know, it's gothic, it's twisted, it's perversely amusing too. It's kind of like a nice diversion, but it's almost like it's like eating too much like Halloween candy or something. After it's kind of great going down, and then but you
don't feel good after.
No, there's not. I really don't look for any deep meaning, but there's some fun to be had, and you know, if you're willing to take the ride, you know, but
there you
don't expect it to mean anything. Good
All right.
Lord.
Well, this last one is a documentary. I knew nothing about this.
But
when I was reading about it, I was cracking up at
Yeah.
the whole basis of the whole thing.
Yeah, well, if I could kindly correct you, it's a regular narrative movie, but it was inspired by a documentary. But I'll say,
I see. Okay.
yeah, and this one was a nice surprise. And truth be told, I was dreading this movie from the preview, so I'm going,
Really?
oh God. Well, yeah, I go,
okay.
not another one of these misfit sports team comedies where somebody from the outside, a coach comes in, gives the incompetent team like a dose of confidence and self-esteem, and then he saves the day and makes the team. Right. So, and this had some of that, but all of it was filtered through the cockeyed comedic lens of New Zealand filmmaker Taika Waititi, who in terms of style, he's got such a great sense of humor. In terms of style and tone, he returns to his indie roots of these movies he made, like Eagle versus Shark, Boy, What We Do in the Shadows, Hunt for the Wilder People. He won an Oscar for Jojo Rabbit, and he went big time Hollywood with the Thor movies. He directed those too. But this is the Taika Waititi sensibility that I love the most, and that serves this story well and avoids what could have become in any other director's hands, I think, a sappy, maudlin, sugary, treacly mess.
Yeah, because I can see that too. Exactly.
Yeah, you can see it right from the trailer, because I go, oh God! But I hadn't realized it was his movie. But anyway, it is based on a 2014 documentary about a certain coach's efforts. Here, played by Michael Fassbinder, who's also in the Killer on Netflix.
The one we talked about last week.
Yeah. Anyway, he comes to lead the American Samoa national football team. It's considered one of the weakest and worst football teams in the world.
Right.
I don't think they ever even scored a single goal when they played. But he comes there to get them to qualify for the 2014 FIFA World Cup. And it's a wonderfully funny and touching, and it's ethnically truthful too. It's a sports comedy drama that, if you're open to it, I believe will really touch your heart. It really touched my heart. I even hate saying that, but it was touching, because the comedy doesn't involve like setups or jokes or gags necessarily, but it's funny because of the way they honestly portray the characters and the culture of the people that are being depicted in this movie. So it's a sweet and charming movie. It's actually a good family film too, although I think a lot of the comedy might fly past like some audiences. I found it very funny, but I know a lot of the humor went right by me too. I know I didn't get some of the cultural references and the accents and such, but what a nice movie, and what a nice surprise. I loved it. It was probably the most fun I had at a movie this week. I mean, Thanksgiving, notwithstanding, but it was sweet. It was sweet without it like, being annoyingly cloying, if that makes any sense. Exactly. It really was. I was just so touched by it. I thought it was a beautiful little movie. Yeah.
Right. And that's a great thing. So now let me just go over the list again.
Sure.
So Hunger Games, all of them actually are all in theaters. Napoleon will be on Apple TV soon. So you have to go to the theaters to watch all of these. Yeah. I definitely want to watch the Hunger Games. Now, real quickly, Tim, why did you not watch Trolls? Did you not get invited?
Yeah, well,
did they not have anything?
Well, I missed the press screening, and this is award season, so you just wouldn't believe how many movies I have to see and I have to review. So that one, went by the wayside.
It went through the cracks, and that's going to be the blockbuster. So
probably
you missed out. You'll have to watch it just like everybody else.
Yeah, we can talk about it next week if I get an opportunity to see it.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned next week. So the show will not be on live next week. There will be some new content on Friday, but we'll talk to you in 2 weeks.
Okay, good.
I will be. I'm sorry. I just totally reminded me.
No, that's fine. I could use the vacation.
There you go. We'll take a vacation because you got a lot of movies to watch, including Trolls, my friend.
Right. Yeah.
So have a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you in 2 weeks then.
You too. Okay, looking forward to it, ladies. Happy Thanksgiving to you too. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
I don't know what happened to his picture. I lost it for some reason in the middle of him talking. It was weird. All right, you guys, that is the show. And again, as I just mentioned to Tim, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we will be live right here. Thursday on Thanksgiving, there will be some new content, as well as Friday as well. So still tune into YouTube. You'll have some a couple of really interesting things to watch that we have planned for next week. But the show will not be live on Thursday and Friday. So just to let you know, big thank you to those that have been donating to the super chat. Thank you so much, Ms. Organic. $5 donation. I think I'll stick with the dog show. I think we were talking about Thanksgiving right there. I hear you. Hula Steph, happy birthday!
Woo-hoo! Happy birthday!
Thank you so much, Hula, and happy birthday to you. I hope you have a fabulous day.
Have a great birthday weekend, too. Yeah.
Absolutely. And thank you for the $10 donation. Sam, we love you. Thank you also for the $10 donation. Doug came with the $5 super sticker. Doug, you're awesome. Jess, thanks for the Riz compliment and the $5 as well. $10 for that Medoro Mule. And yes, Harry, thank you. And FPG&E. And Marilyn started us off today with a $5 super sticker. I appreciate you guys so much. Okay, so stay here. Mark Thompson, and then the after party live. Oh, Mimi. Oh, $10 from Matthew, my kind of hottie. Thank you, Mimi.
Yep.
See,
she's the one you met in line, right? You met her in line?
I believe that, right? Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Mimi. Yeah. So yes, right here. Do you see Mimi? The picture I have right here? I would just superimpose it. I should make it into like one of those cutout figures that I got Marley of Harry Styles last Christmas. I'm sure James, my husband, would absolutely love that. Okay, so click the thumbs up button before we end the show as well, you guys. Thank you to everybody that donated to the super chat. Please become an official Medorable. TheNikkiMedoroShow.com. Become a Patreon subscriber. We depend on each of your one-time month donations. We really, really appreciate it. The PayPal email is my email, TheNikkiMedoroShow@gmail.com. We have the merch site up at the Nikki Medoro Shop. And again, my list of favorite things is up as well. Look for it in the show notes on YouTube. There's the link. Just look up Linktree, Nikki Medoro. It's there, including many of the things that I talk about and I recommend. All right, have a fabulous weekend. I will see you all on Monday. Again, Mark Thompson, After Party Live. I love you. Talk to you next week. Bye-bye. Oh, where did Jacob go? Did I lose? Oh, there he is. Bye.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You're proud, like a beautiful blossom. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.